Hare Nama Eva Kevalam Kalau Nasteva 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 Gatiranyata. Reading from Manah Siksha by Raghunath Das Goswami. Guru Goste Gostalishu Suru. Guru Goste Gostalishu. Sujan Subhu Surgan Samantra Sri Namni Navayuvadvande Sharane Sada Tambahitam Kururati Matipurvamatitaram Ayebrate Santas Adyache Chaturbi Tritapada. So instructing the mind, Raghunath Das Goswami telling the mind to take shelter of the spiritual master, Braj Dham. The Brijvasis respect all the Vaishnavas, the Brahmanas. Ultimately taking shelter of Sri Radha Krishna in Braj by chanting the holy names, chanting the Gayatri mantras, always giving up pride, sada dambahitva. So imploring the mind to do so. Tritapada, touching his feet, speaking with sweet words, begging him. So material energy is very strong, and the enemy ultimately is there within the embodied being. The mind, and it manifested as lust, anger, greed, madness, illusion and envy. So, but we have to take shelter of the spiritual master, the associates of Mahaprabhu, specifically Rupa Goswami and Sarvabhauma Damodar. And we should take these instructions to heart of all these verses. Here, verse number 9. Madisha Natatre Vraja Vipina Chandram Vrajas Vaneshwarim Tam Natatre Tat Atula Sakitre Tu Lalitam Vishakam Sikshali Vitarana Gurutve Priya Sarva Girindrau Tat Preksha Lalitarati Datre Smara Manah. Addressing the mind. O mind, always remember Vrindavan Chandra Sri Krishna as the Lord of my Swamini, Sri Radhika's life. Vrindavaneshwari, Srimati Radhika as my mistress, Sri Lalita as the peerless friend of my Swamini, Sri Vishaka as the instructing spiritual master in the arrangements of service rendered unto the divine couple, and Sri Radhakund and Giriraj Govardhan as those who grant darshan of Sri Radha Krishna and bestow ecstatic love for their lotus feet. Bhaktivinoda Thakur and other great acharyas have given beautiful explanations regarding these verses. So here, first of all, Vraja Vipina Chandram Smara. So what we should do, what the mind should do for the conditioned soul. The pure devotees are always naturally serving Krishna, thinking about Krishna, speaking about Krishna. But the conditioned soul, he has to try to be properly situated, remembering that is not this gross and subtle body, that is the eternal son of Krishna, that is the real ego. And the eternal son of Krishna, Jivare Sopoy Krishna Nityadas. So the ego, the false ego has to be transcendent. And then one has to pray for transcendental intelligence, so we may always make the right decisions, and that is to always surrender to Krishna. So the mind has to be in conditioned state, so the mind has to be always advised, so the mind has to be advised of or instructed what to do. The mind has to be controlled. The mind sometimes has to be beaten so that the mind will be properly engaged in the service of the Lord. So smara, remember, Braja Vipina Chandram. Remember Sri Krishna, the moon of the forest of Braj. Vipina means the forest, Chandra the moon. So in this regard, so the acharyas have given also many beautiful prayers in glorification of Krishna. Specifically, Rupa Goswami has written many verses in Stavamala, in his book Stavamala, which is a collection of beautiful prayers. One of them is known as Mukunda Muktavali Stava. So there he has explained, Navajaladharavanam Champakud Bhasikanam Vikasidagnalinayanam Vispuram Nandahasyam Kanakaruchidukulam Charu Bharahavachalam Kamapi Nikila Saram Naumi Gopi Kumaram. I worship Gopi's darling son, whose complexion is like that of a fresh rain cloud, whose attractive ears are decorated with champak flowers, upon whose charming face a mild smile blossoms like a blooming lotus flower, who wears a yellow garment that resembles the luster of molten gold, whose head is adorned with a beautiful peacock feather, and who is the quintessence of the three worlds. Another verse he has mentioned, Mukajita Sharadindu Keli Lavanya Sindhu Karavinihita Kundur Balavi Pranabandhu Vapurupasiturenu Kakshanikshipta Venur Vachanavachagadenu patu mamananda sunuhu. May I be protected by that Sri Nanda Nandana, whose face is far more attractive than the autumn moon, with a notion of elegance suitable for the enactment of amorous pastimes, whose hands are equipped with a bowl for playing games, who is the dearmost friend of the young maidens of Raj, whose body is beautified by the dust raised from the hooves of the cows, whose fruit is kept prominently on his left side, and who subdues the cows by his melodious voice. So beautiful verses which are helping us to remember, as it is mentioned here, Brajapina Chandram Smara. Remember, we have to try to remember Krishna. So in the conditioned state, it is very difficult to remember Krishna. So therefore we have to daily see the deities in the temple or at home, and we have to engage in the worship of the deities. And the Archa Vigraha is not different from Krishna in Golok, from Krishna in the heart. So by seeing the deity, then we can remember sometimes the deities. But that is usually not sufficient. But we have to hear about Krishna, about his wonderful form, his wonderful qualities, and his pastimes. And then we may be able to chant the Mahamantra nicely, properly, which is the most important anga, limb of devotional service. By doing that daily, then eventually, so by doing the deity worship, by hearing about Krishna, then while chanting, so we can remember Krishna's form and qualities and pastimes. They become one. So therefore we have to also read these prayers, learn some of these prayers, as mentioned here by Rupa Goswami, or so many other prayers are there, which are very helpful. And they're very beautiful. All these Sanskrit verses composed by these great personalities. So here, very interesting. The Krishna is keeping the flute usually on his left side. Of course, you can see also when we have the deities in the temple, Krishna on his left side, so Srimati Radharani is there. Because in the pastimes, Radha Krishna, they're engaged in loving exchanges. And sometimes Radha is on the right side, sometimes she's in front of him. But in the temple, usually the system is that Srimati Radharani is on the left side. And yes, it is very interesting that the flute is also on the left side. So what is very dear to Krishna, that is on his left side. And even if you can see in the ordinary world, or according to the Vedic literatures, according to the Vedic culture or Vaishnava culture, the elder person is always on the right side. Therefore we can see the married couple, traditionally, that the woman is on the left side. Of course, nowadays, many times, it is not followed, because persons are not so much aware of the Vedic culture. But those who are knowledgeable, those who are following the Vedic culture, Vaishnava culture, they will also try to follow that. So this is a small point in regards for the householders. And of course, we are speaking about the transcendental relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His most beloved devotees. So that is a different affair than in the material world. But at the same time, in this material world, so we have to act according to Varna Ashram, and we have to follow the rules and regulations of Varna Ashram, so that eventually we may be able to enter the platform of Raganuga Bhakti, so that eventually we may be able to especially also understand the wonderful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So that is actually the goal, to be absorbed in hearing about the wonderful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. But first of all, we have to follow Vaidhi Bhakti also, and we have to follow the rules and regulations, and we have to understand that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and that we are simply servants of Krishna, insignificant servants of Krishna. So that is important, to be firmly fixed in that understanding, and that we follow Vaidhi Bhakti very nicely. And then we may eventually be able to enter into the realm of, the higher realm of Bhakti, Raganuga Bhakti, and then we may understand properly the loving pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So, but even in a conditioned state, so by hearing, so with this proper understanding, that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, then we can appreciate. And only later on, when one is highly advanced and internally absorbed, then one will forget that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. And Krishna is the most beloved. So while we perform devotional service, we have to be always careful and understand our position, and pray that we may be able to advance and enter into these wonderful pastimes. So if one is not strong in one's sadhana, or firmly fixed in the proper understanding, then one may be also bewildered, and one may just think that these are just some, just like young men and women, they are engaged in a loving exchange. So similarly, some people, they may misunderstand the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So therefore we have to also mention that we have to be careful. So Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada always cautioned that we should not prematurely try to enter into simply hearing about Radha and Krishna's pastimes. At the same time, we should understand that this is actually the goal. So we need to have a balance between, of course, first performing devotional service, following Vaidhi Bhakti, but then eventually trying to enter into Raganuga Bhakti. Because without performing Raganuga Bhakti, we can never enter into the pastimes of Krishna in Braj. It is not possible. So Therefore also we should be under the guidance of the spiritual master, the advanced devotees, so that we may gradually advance, and then we can then enter into the path of Raganuga Bhakti, and then ultimately in Madhurya Rasa also. So if you have the proper understanding, and if you're nicely chanting the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, then we can truly appreciate these wonderful verses. And by nature Krishna, so just the name Krishna already means he's all attractive. Krishna is all attractive. And he comes to this world and performs these wonderful pastimes, especially in Braj, to attract the fallen conditioned souls. So they may surrender to him. So they may engage in his devotional service. So they may be able to become perfect and realize their transcendental spiritual nature and relationship with Krishna. Of course, the pure devotees like Rupa Goswami, who are writing these verses, as here in Stavamala, these verses, they're eternal associates of the Lord. And they're constantly remembering Krishna. If they're not remembering Krishna, they're crying in separation. And so they were writing these verses. And so in these verses, so the pastimes of the Lord are hidden also. The wonderful pastimes of the Lord. So description is there of Krishna's beauty, wearing beautiful yellow garments, and having always a peacock feather in his crown, or in his turban, or it's simply in the hair. And they can see the pastimes of the Lord, and sometimes it is indicated in these verses. So just like here, that he's keeping the flute on the left side. So, because many times also the gopis are trying to steal Krishna's flute in the loving exchange. So that is, all these things are mentioned in the Goswami's books, and the pastimes which are there between Krishna, especially and the gopis. And so one of them is stealing the flute, stealing Krishna's flute. So many times the gopis are stealing Krishna's flute. And Krishna is trying to protect his flute. He's trying to always keep the flute with himself. Therefore, nighttime, even at nighttime, Krishna is keeping his flute under the cushion. One of his flutes, he has many flutes, but one of the flutes is keeping there. Cannot keep all of them. Even like the flute players here, in this material world, who are playing flute traditionally according to the classical, traditional Indian or Bharatvarsha, from Bharatvarsha, classical music or singing is there, and the flute players are there, and there are different flutes are there. Maybe how many? 12? My daughter is also learning, or trying to learn. Knows a little bit playing the flute. So maybe they have 12 flutes. Huge ones, small ones. There's Krishna, he's the original flute player, he's the best flute player. So he has many flutes. Basically three, the Vamsi, Murli and Venu. So Venu small, and then medium, and then big flute. But then he has many of them also. And different names, they all have different names. That is also described And Krishna Ganudesh Deepika, the name and the size and how many holes are there in the different flutes. So he cannot keep he's not keeping all the flutes with himself. Usually he has just one flute with him and he's going here and there, and when he's sleeping his one flute is there on his cushion. He must always have a flute with himself. It may change, one day he has one flute and another day another flute under the cushion. Similarly when he's carrying the flute, different flutes are there. So, of course he's Yogeshwar, and although when he's performing his pastimes in Braj, it seems to be just like an ordinary boy. And to the gopis also, he's just an ordinary boy. He's not the Supreme Lord. He's our Prananath, our beloved. He's the son of Mother Yashoda. He's not Bhagavan. They never see him as Bhagavan. So, but he's Bhagavan. And he can, by his will, the flutes are there and they are manifest. But usually he's keeping one and he has the other flutes in at one place. And so and Krishna is the source of everything, of all the spiritual material world. Is most powerful. He's the source of all emotions, transcendental emotions. And because the emotions are there in Krishna, so, and they are even in the material world, but in perverted form. So like there is fear in this material world, because there is fear in the spiritual world. Even Krishna, because Krishna is the source of everything, is also becoming afraid. Like when Mother Yashoda was running behind Krishna after he had broken the pots. So he's, although fear personified, is afraid of Krishna. Krishna is afraid of Mother Yashoda and her stick and running after him to catch him because he broke the pots. So sometimes you're a little fearful that somebody will steal the flute. But at the same time, Krishna is actually hoping that the gopis are stealing the flute, so he can run after them and get back the flute. So therefore, if it is on the left side, he can more easily steal it. So in noontime, Krishna is performing his pastimes at Radhakund, and only the gopis are there, and practically only the gopis of Radharani's groups are there. Sapaksha gopis are there, because Radhakund is Radharani's place. Yata Radha Priya Vishnus Tasyam Kundam Priyam Tatha Sarva Gopishu Saivaikya Vishnurantyanta Vallabha. So she's the most dear to, the most beloved of Vishnu, Krishna. So Vishnu means the all-pervading. So Vishnu, it means Krishna, because Krishna is all-pervading, is everywhere. And Vishnu is simply an expansion of Krishna. So she's the most dear of Krishna. So she's the foremost. Sarva Gopisha Saiva Eka. Saeva Eka. Saeva Eka. She's certainly the only one and the most dear of Krishna amongst all the gopis, the millions of gopis. Of them, some are prominent, 108 or maybe 8 of all of them. Different descriptions are given of which gopis are amongst the most dear to Krishna in different, even Puranas, the descriptions are given. So we know that, of course, and even then it is explained amongst all of them, then 2 are most prominent. Srimati Radharani and Chandravali. But of the 2, Radharani she's the foremost. So, but different descriptions are there of who are most dear. Sometimes the Ashtasakis are mentioned, Lalita, Vishaka, as we know from Swapaksha gopis, but sometimes also Chandravali, Padma are mentioned. So different descriptions are there by different acharyas. Because all of them are dear to Krishna, but at the same time, of course, in our sampradaya, so we take shelter of Srimati Radharani and we have the higher respect for the gopis in Radharani's groups, Radharani's group. So in Radhakund, the Swapaksha gopis are there, those in Radharani's group, Lalita, Vishaka, and around Radhakund. So Yata Radha Vishnu Priya, Yata Radha Priya Vishnus. So Radharani is very dear to Krishna. Tasyam Kundam Priyam Tatha. So similarly, Radhakund is very dear to Krishna. So Radhakund is no different from Srimati Radharani, and Shyamakund is no different from Shyam, from Krishna, from Shyam Sundar. So around Radhakund there are 8 kunjas of the different gopis, of Radharani's gopis, Radharani's friends, most dear friends of Radharani who are of the same age practically. So it's a few days elder or younger than Srimati Radharani, eternally. So Lalita, Vishaka Devi, Champakalata, Induleka, Chitra Devi, Sudevi, Ranga Devi, and Tunga Vidya. So they're also Nayikas, heroines. Krishna is the only hero. And then the heroines are there. So, and the foremost is Srimati Radharani. And then the Ashtasakis are there. So in Radhakund, so Radharani and the Ashtasakis are there at noontime always, Madhyana Lila. And then the Manjaris are there. The different gopis, they have their friends of the same age, gopis of the same age, and then they have the Manjaris who are a little younger, like for example Lalita Devi. So 8 prominent gopis are mentioned, and then after that 8 prominent Manjaris are there. And the foremost of them, amongst them is Rupa Manjari in Lalita Devi's group. And then, for example, so Vishaka is there, and then 8 gopis are there, most prominent, and then 8 Manjaris are there. And Vishaka's group, main Manjari is Vilas Manjari. And so in this way, so they all assemble there and they perform their wonderful pastimes with Krishna. And then there, so it happens also there that sometimes they play a game of dice, and then sometimes, so then Krishna and Radharani are playing, and of course the gopis are on Radharani's side, all of them, and Krishna is there. Sometimes 1 or 2 of his younger friends are there, because he needs a little support. And then put a different thing with different items on as a wager, and so if you lose you have to give something. And then one time Krishna put his flute and he lost the flute, and the gopis here, Radharani, I have the flute. And then Krishna, of course, he wants his flute back. So it's only a game, but now I want my flute back. But then Radharani, no, not giving, I'm giving to one gopi. And Krishna is running after the gopi, and then catching her, and of course embracing her, and the gopi is giving to another one. So going to another gopi. So Krishna always wants to have his flute with himself, but at the same time then he's losing the flute also. And so therefore there's no left side also for the gopi. It's easier to steal when a little inattentive. So beautiful verses are there to help us to, so that the mind can be absorbed in that. Braja Vipina Chandram Smara. So we have to remember Krishna. The mind has to be engaged at the lotus feet of Krishna. As mentioned about Ambarish Maharaj, he was the emperor, very busy, so many problems are there. We also have problems in life, right? Problems in life you have? No problem? So many problems. So emperor, so many kings are there in different kingdoms. Maybe Bidari has allotted the emperor, but everything belongs to him, the king of the kings. So much to do. Problems are there always, but still. He was a great devotee and he was worshipping the deities every day just to set the example that we should worship the deities. Even if one is in a big position, one has to worship the deities. So he was doing that. And Savai Manah Krishna Padada Vindayar. First of all, he was engaging his mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. So, by worshipping the deities, but then because he was worshipping and then he could remember also, during the day also, while doing his other duties, discussing with his ministers and to solve this problem, that problem. So we have to fix the mind on Krishna. So by worshipping, by then hearing about Krishna. So hearing about Krishna, so that is very important. And only after hearing for a long time, then Krishna will be manifested in the heart. So therefore every day we have to hear about Krishna, especially Krishna in Braj, because we want to go to Braj, so we should remember him. And the mind, of course, material energy is very strong and obstinate. So therefore we have to be careful. And we have to follow this good advice of Raghunath Das Goswami. And we have to recite these verses. We have to tell our mind to try to remember Krishna. And the Stavamala is another, so the Stavamala, so a garland of Stava means this, different prayers are there, like Ashtakams are there, and taking all of them is like a garland, and so we should wear this garland. In other words, we should chant these verses, we should recite these verses. There's one Tribhangi Panchakam, Tribhangi Panchakam. So Krishna is also bent in 3 places, or Srimati Radharani also. Krishna is actually known as also Tribhanga Shyama Sundar, and Srimati Radharani Tribhangi Brajeshwari. So there he is also reciting one verse. O friend of the fallen, addressing Krishna, whether the clouds pour down a shower of water upon the thirsting chatak birds. So the birds, it is mentioned, they're only drinking the water from the rain clouds. So the clouds are, so sometimes of course the water is coming from the clouds, and this way the chaka birds are satisfied, the thirst is quenched, but sometimes there's lightning coming, and of course that is coming on a bird or on a person, that person will immediately die. Even sometimes the trees are breaking and is causing great damage. But whatever, if the chatak bird is getting the water, or sometimes only the The lightning is there, but still the chatak bird is always trying to get the water and is hankering for that. There's no other way, it has to do that. Similarly, whether, so addressing Krishna, whether you're merciful to me or whether you punish me, I have no support in this world other than you. You may do as you like. So that is also in the Siksha by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the last verse, which is also actually the mood of Srimati Radharani and addressing Krishna. Ashlishava padaratam pidastamavadasanam mahatam karotu vayata tata vividata lampato maprananatastu sevanaparaha. So there's not, you're the Lord of my life, Prananath, and there's no one else. And you may become present before me, or you may disappear also, or you may trample on me. Whatever you may do, I will accept. Of course, Radharani, the gopis, they want to have this loving exchange with Krishna, perform transcendental rasa dance. They want to be embraced by Krishna, but if Krishna is going to some other gopi, so then they're lamenting, they're crying, but what they can do? And they will never give up Krishna. So therefore, Lampat, Krishna is addressed as a debauchee. So, seems like unfaithful lover. But that is actually only there to increase the loving sentiments of Srimati Radharani.
One question.
Yeah, one question.
So, like we are following Rupa Goswami.
We are following Rupa Goswami, yeah.
We all will go under Rupa Manjari.
So we try to follow under Rupa Goswami and then under Rupa Manjari, yes.
So that means Lalita Sakhi's group will become big.
That means Lalita Sakhi's group will become big.
Then what about
sure.
Vilas Manjari?
Yeah,
Who
no
will
problem. Yeah. Yeah, you see that, yeah. Well, for example, now in our Sampradaya, in our line we are following Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and so they are following Rupa Goswami. But not all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas are following Rupa Goswami. Some devotees are there who are followers of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. If you go to Radharaman temple, the devotees there, they are following Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And they're glorifying him like anything, which is right. It's such a great devotee, Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Also pure devotee, eternal associate. And there are some devotees even now, and they are following Jiva Goswami, who is Vilas Manjari, who is under Vishakha Devi. And still now they are there, followers of Jiva Goswami. Such a great scholar. If you see the purports of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and and Jiva Goswami is there, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is there, very famous. But you can see actually that Jiva Goswami's many times his tika, his purports are the longest. Such a great scholar and very, well, of course, deep understanding. He was the greatest scholar. Of course, Rupa Goswami also is the greatest scholar, but actually, and Jiva Goswami was thinking himself to be the insignificant servant of Rupa Goswami. But Jiva Goswami, he wrote even more verses than Rupa Goswami. And so there are still now, there are many followers of Jiva Goswami. And so they are following then Vilas Manjari. Yeah. And some are following Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, but maybe less. Most prominent is Rupa. And then of course Raghunath Das and Sanatana Goswami. And Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Raghunath Bhatt, So he was also a very wonderful devotee, but even some followers are there also of him. So it's not that everyone is following Rupa, but we are following in our Gaudiya Sampradaya of Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta. We are in that line. So you don't have to worry. Krishna is making everything. He's perfect, and there are more and more jivas joining Lalita Devi, and more jivas will be joining Vishakha Devi. So don't worry about that.
From other planets also.
What?
From other planets and other universes.
Yeah, there are so many universes, and there are Krishna's pastimes are there, and more are joining there also, Rupa and Rati Manjari. No problem. Yeah. Yeah, but anyway, it came in your mind, yes, so it's okay, it's good, yeah, thoughtful, yeah. But we are very our existence is very tiny, and yeah, our consciousness and is very, very tiny, yeah. And actually you can see that if you have the followers of Mahaprabhu, Sarup Damodar, and their understanding of Rupa Goswami and their writings, and they're such a genius, like the books of Rupa Goswami, how he's writing, what is it, Chamatkar Chandrika, that is by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, beautiful pastimes of Krishna. What is it, and then Rupa Goswami's Chitra Kavitvani, book about verses, and these amazing verses. So real genius, they were genius. Like in Sanskrit, so you may, some verses are there, you may read from the beginning to the end, and then you can read from the end to the beginning, the same meaning. Anulom Vilom verse, Anulom Vilom verse. Even sometimes they have a whole book, and you read one from the beginning to the end, then you have Krishna Lila. There's one author. Then you read from the end to the beginning, Ram Lila is manifested. It's like unbelievable. So, and then if you go down, they're all great acharyas. But then, and all the acharyas, they're simply thinking themselves, I'm the insignificant servant of my Gurudev. And everyone is thinking, my Gurudev is such a great scholar, great devotee, I am completely insignificant. And then you can see also that actually, so the greatest, is Rupa Goswami. And then, but still all pure devotees and amazing personalities. But then even when they come in this world, it is, so disciplic succession, so by the arrangement of the Lord, they are all great personalities, but the knowledge is coming down. And as things are progressing, everything is, and even becoming a little less. So, Rupa Goswami's time, and the 6 Goswamis, so much more was available. Some of the books of Jiva Goswami especially, so they are not available now. And even after hundreds of years, then some of the other books, they will not be available. Anyhow, so the point is we have to remember Krishna. Tam Brajavaneshwarim na tatve smara. Remember Srimati Radhika as one Swamini. Brajavana Ishwarim. So Brajavan, so the forest of Braj. The Ishwarim, the goddess of Braj, that is Srimati Radharani. Natatve. Nata means the Lord, or or the goddess. So for us it is Srimati Radharani, Swamini. So the Gaudiya Vaishnavas are taking shelter of Srimati Radharani. And by taking shelter of Srimati Radharani, then we can properly approach Krishna. And then we can satisfy Krishna if we do everything according to her direction. So therefore they are offering prayers to Srimati Radharani. So beautiful prayers are there by Rupa Goswami also, or Raghunathas Goswami himself in Vilap Kusumanjali, taking shelter of Srimati Radharani. Atyutkantena nitaram vihanalane nandyamana hridaya kela kapidasi ha swamini kshanamiha pranayena garam akrandanena vidoravirapami padyai. O Swamini Shri Radhika, I am your maidservant, but my heart is burning due to the virulent fire of separation from you. I cry repeatedly, and thus I have become thoroughly aggrieved. Seeing no other means of reprival, I reside at Govardhan, by the bank of Sri Radhakund, and lovingly supplicate your lotus feet with these few lines of lamentation, Vilap Kusumanjali. So crying out for the mercy of Srimati Radharani. And of course even we have to pray to the Sakis. So and also significant here in this verse. So desiring to reside at Govardhan, not only simply any place at Govardhan, but by the bank of Sri Radhakund, because that is where they meet every day at noontime, Sri Radha and Krishna, and the gopis in Radharani's group, and the manjaris. And there's one other verse, very famous, Devi duka kula sagaro dhare Dhyamanam atidurgatam janam tam kripa prabhala nokayad bhutam prapaya sapada pankajalayam. May you be pleased, O Braja Vilasini Sri Radhika. Having fallen into the unfathomable ocean of intense grief, I am severely tormented and seized by calamity. O supremely compassionate one, kindly place me upon the indestructible boat of your mercy, and grant me the direct service of your lotus feet. Pada pankajalayam. Pada pankaja, the lotus feet, alayam. So that is a resting place for the devotees. So taking shelter of Srimati Radharani, then we can hope to be able to serve Krishna nicely. But then also praying Lalitam tad atula sakitve. Remember, Sri Lalita is the peerless friend of Srimati Radhika. So we can also not directly approach Srimati Radhika. So we have to approach those who are dear to her. So these are her friends, headed by Lalita Devi. Therefore Rupa Goswami has also prayed to Lalita Devi in Lalita Ashtakam, again from Stavamala, 8 verses glorifying Srimati Lalita Devi. Radha Mukunda Pada Sambhava Karma Bindu Nirmanchanopakara Nikrita Deha Laksham Utunga Saurida Visheshava Sattvagalbham Devim Gunai Sulalitam Lalitam Namami. I offer obeisances unto thee, Hoti Sri Lalita Devi, who is the charming repository of qualities such as beauty, sweetness and gravity, who is engaged in wiping away the glittering drops of perspiration from the lotus feet of Sri Radha Madhav, and who is perpetually immersed in the most elevated melodies of Sauhardaras, undivided absorption in fulfilling the heart's desire for her intimate friend Srimati Radhika. So we have to take shelter for those who are. So here, and basically in this verse also, so the process of Raganuga Bhakti is indicated, following the footsteps or or serving in the mood of the gopis, the eternal associates of Krishna and Braj, in order to advance in that direction of the highest relationship in the Madhurya Ras, Madhurya Bhav. So Lalita Devi, she is very prominent in the service of Radha and Krishna, and she is very strong, and many times she is chastising Krishna also, and she is telling Srimati Radharani to not so easily surrender to Krishna, so to be acting in such a way that that Krishna will not so easily be able to engage in pastimes with Srimati Radharani. So different moods are there of the gopis. So that is explained also by Rupa Goswami and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu to some extent, and more in Ujjwal Nilamani, the different moods. So of course we cannot explain in too much details, because we have to very soon we have to stop. Although actually we would like to continue for hours, but we have to still follow sadhana bhakti, and we have to do other things also.
One question.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, you mentioned that there are followers of the Sikh Goswamis, but Gaudiya Vaishnava follows mostly Srila Rupa Goswami. But what about someone who has sold himself to Tulsi Devi? She is also Leela Shakti and a Sakhi. So my question is, can we also follow her along with Srila Rupa Goswami and other acharyas? Thank you, your servant.
Yes, sure. I mean, but Tulsi Devi, for example, so yeah, Tulsi Devi is very dear to Krishna, and we have to actually take shelter of Tulsi Devi also. But we have the plant Tulsi Devi, and she's very dear to Krishna. We offer the Tulsi leaves in her service. So because she's dear to Krishna, so we should take shelter of her also, and we are taking shelter of her. That we must do. Therefore, every day we worship her in the morning, and many times, even 2 times, morning and evening, in many temples. Tulasi, Krishna Priyasi. So we offer prayers, Namo Namaha, Tulasi Krishna Priyasi, Namo Namaha. And then Radha Krishna Seva Pavo, Abhilasi. So like this, so there we can see that Tulsi Devi is very dear, and so we pray to her every morning actually, and sometimes even in the evening also in some temples, so we may be able to enter the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So sadhakas, we do that. That is there, that is all right. Yes, and I mean, Rupa Goswami himself, so he has advised that we should also take shelter of, for example, Tulsi Devi or Govardhan and Jamuna Devi. So we take shelter of them also, but in the mood of Rupa Goswami. In the mood of Rupa Goswami. How he was doing his sadhana, as sadhaka we follow that, and how he was serving Srimati Radharani as Rupa Manjari, we follow that. But yes, at the same time we have to respect all the Brijabasis, and we need the mercy of all the Brijabasis, of all the associates of Mahaprabhu, not just one. But we are focusing our attention on Rupa Goswami. Just like in this world, there are many gurus may be there, even nowadays, but we cannot just, but we have to usually follow one spiritual master, and then we go according to his direction, and we cannot just worship everyone and follow everyone. It's not possible. So we mainly follow Rupa Goswami and those who are following Rupa Goswami, and according to how they are instructing us to to do our bhajan, so we do that. But Tulsi Devi definitely is to be worshipped, and all the followers of Mahaprabhu, the 6 Goswamis, they all worship Tulsi Devi and respected Tulsi Devi. Haridas Thakur, he was chanting in front of Tulsi Devi because she is dear to Krishna. So definitely we should take shelter of Tulsi Devi also. But first we take shelter of Guru, and then Rupa Goswami, and then Mahaprabhu, and then we take shelter of Tulsi Devi, and then later on the Manjaris, the Gopis, but also Giri, Govardhan, so that is also explained. Yeah, so and then explain Vishakam Sikshali Vitarana Gurutve. So remember, see Vishaka as one's instructing spiritual master. So Vishaka Devi is of the same age as Srimati Radharani, and so she's always engaged in the service of the divine couple, and she's practically the same mood as Srimati Radharani, so very dear. And but not only Vishaka Devi, but specifically it is then explained also we should take shelter of Yamuna Devi, who is considered to be non-different from Vishaka, an expansion of Vishaka Devi. Therefore our acharyas have also given the Yamunashtakam, 8 prayers glorifying Yamuna Devi, who is very dear to Krishna also. So before taking shelter of Srimati Radharani, we have to take shelter of the Gopis, specifically Ladita Vishaka, and then we should take shelter of the Manjaris, and then we have to take shelter of Yamuna Devi, we have to take shelter of Govardhan. So Yamuna Ashtakam is very famous. So we just can recite one, the first one. Praturanta kasya patani pipati harini prekshayati papinapi papa sindhu tarini nira madhuri birapi ashesha chita bandini Mampunato Sarvadara Vinda Bandhu Nandini. May Yamuna Devi, the daughter of Suryadev, who delights the friend of the lotus, Surya, always purify me. She saves those who touch her from going to the realm of her brother Yamaraj, and merely seeing her enables wicked sinners to cross the ocean of sin. She binds the hearts of everyone by the uninterrupted sweetness of her waters. So as sadhakas, it is important to take shelter of Yamuna Devi, of Tulsi Devi, of Brajaraj, so means Vrindavan also, and the Braj of Braj. The Braj, Raj, the dust, particles of Braj, and then especially also Govardhan. And then of course Radhakund and Shamakund, we should take shelter also of them. And so that is also explained in this verse. Priya Sara Tat Preksha Lalita Rati Datre. Priya Sara. So the deer, Sara means the kund, the pond. So that refers to, so Priya, of course, that refers ultimately to Srimati Radharani also. Radhakund. Remember Radhakund as granting darshan of Sri Radha Krishna and bestowing ecstatic love for them. So, for example, if you go to Govardhan, and then also, if you're wandering around there, so you, in the conditioned state, we cannot see Radha and Krishna. But then when you go to Radhakund and Shamakund, then by seeing Radhakund and Shamakund, so that is actually then similar to taking darshan of Radha and Krishna, because Radha Kund is not different from Radharani, and Shama Kund is not different from Sham Sundar Krishna. And so Radha Kund is bestowing Rati, so Dhatve, so it is granting ecstatic love. Rati refers to transcendental love towards Krishna. So Radha Kund is granting darshan of Radha Krishna, Radha Kund and Shama Kund, because they are not different, and also bestowing love for them. So therefore Raghunath Das Goswami has explained also in Vilap Kusumanjali, Ha Sri Sarorava Sadatrai Samhodisha Pristena Sadam Ihava Kelati Kamarangai Tam Che Priya Priyam Ativatayori Timam Hadashayadya Kripayamam Jivitam Tam. O Sri Radha Kund, may my Swamini Sri Radhika always enjoys amorous sportive pastimes with her beloved Sri Krishna along your banks. You are more precious to them than life itself. Therefore kindly grant me darshan this very day of Sri Radhika, who is the life of my life. So he's saying, therefore kindly grant me darshan this very day of Sri Radhika. So Radhika is the life of the devotees in our Sampradaya. And the devotees are very eager to take darshan of Radhika. Today, right now, isn't it? Yeah, we want to take darshan. Because we are fortunate when we have deities, we can see Radharani. But then we want also that Radharani may manifest in our heart, or even before our eyes. So therefore the worship of the deities is so important, and we can see, we can pray to Radharani, we can serve Radharani, and then there's an exchange. And then she may manifest in our heart, or while chanting, manifesting while we are chanting. Because Mahamantra, so that Hare refers to Radharani and Krishna is Krishna, of course. So the devotees are taking shelter of Radha Kund also. But first we have to take shelter of the spiritual master. And then by his mercy we actually are able to get darshan of, or to be able to serve the divine couple, Mahaprabhu. Come near Radha Kund and Govardhan. There's another prayer, very famous prayer by, also again, Raghunath Das Goswami. So we are following Rupa and Raghunath, and they have given such wonderful prayers. And it's a beautiful prayer. Beautiful prayers are there in regards to the spiritual master. Hey Guru Jnanada Dina Bandhu Sananda Datta Karunakaika Sindhu Vrindavana Setavatara Prasida Radha Prachara. So the spiritual master, Hey Guru Jnanada, is giving knowledge. Dina Bandhu is the friend of the fallen. Karunakaika Sindhu is an ocean of mercy. He has come from the transcendental realm. He's giving his own bliss, whatever he is experiencing in relationship to Mahaprabhu and Radha Krishna. So he's giving this to his disciples, his realizations. And the transcendental bliss he's experiencing, so he's giving to his disciples, followers, by speaking or of course different ways also, or by just giving blessings in different way, by thinking. So the spiritual master is thinking, oh my servant or my disciple Krishna Das is doing so nice. Let him advance so nicely, I pray to Krishna. So by his thinking in this way, by praying, then the disciple is blessed. Or sometimes you may also say, Krishna matirastu, may Krishna be always your mind. Sometimes just by hand gesture, like this, not even thinking or speaking, but just doing like this, okay, may you be blessed. This is the mudra for giving blessings, like this. So by thinking, speaking, and then by also bodily gesture, or sometimes putting the hand on the disciples in it this way, blessing. Of course, sometimes just softly, sometimes also strongly, giving blessing. Sometimes embracing the disciple also. So this one prayer is there by Raghunath Goswami. Just the first line, I can't remember now. What is it? We learned this verse? By Raghunath Goswami. Anyway, maybe after I will remember. So the spiritual master is actually very instrumental for the most important for the spiritual master, for the disciple, so he can ultimately take shelter of Mahaprabhu and Rupa Goswami, Mahaprabhu and Radhakund, Shamakund, Giri Govardhan, Yamuna Devi, Tulsi Devi, and then the divine couple. And then at last, Girindra Lalita Rati Datre. Remember, Giriraj Govardhan as he who bestows ecstatic love. So Giriraj is also Ashai Vigraha. So it's no different from Krishna, but at the same time is also glorified as the Haridasya Varya, the greatest of the devotees of Hari, of Krishna. So Hari can refer to Vishnu, or to Gaura Hari, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or Krishna Hari, Sham Hari to Krishna. And many verses are there. Namaste Girirajaya, Sri Govardhana Namini Ashesha Klesha Nashaya Paramananda Daine. So we take shelter of Giriraj, we pray to him. Namaste Girirajaya. Sri Govardhana Namini is also known as Govardhan. Ashesha Klesha Nashaya. So many difficulties may be there, but by taking shelter of Giriraj, then they are all destroyed. Paramananda Daini, he gives the greatest bliss. And so he can give Krishna praying. And even if one has some needs in this world, so then he will also give that. And so Raghunath Goswami again also has prayed for residents. Girini Paharidasa Shayeni Vayetanamam Ritamidam Uditam Sri Radhika Vaktra Chandrat Vrajanavati Lakatre Klipta Veda Sputam Tume Nijanakata Nivasam Dehi Govardhanatham. O Giriraj Govardhan, the neck of your name as Haridasya Varya, best of the servants of Sri Krishna, has been manifest directly from the lotus mouth of Srimati Radhika when she uttered the words. And from Srimad Bhagavatam, Hantam Adri Rabalahara Savarya Yad Rama Krishna Charanas Parasha Pramoda. So glorifying Giriraj, Hantam Adri Haridasya Varya. So you are the greatest of the servants. So Radharani herself has uttered this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is mentioned there in Venugate. So therefore the devotees, they desire to reside at Govardhan. And because Radhakund is there, and Chamakund, where the noon pastimes are there. So, and we can see that Prabhupada at the end of his life, so towards the end he was asking his devotees to bring him to Govardhan and do parikrama also. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada also, he had one Govardhan Shila and he was worshipping for quite some time in Mayapur. Worshipping him as Krishna also, no different from Krishna, but at the same time also offering prayers to Giriraj as a devotee in order to get Krishna prem. Giriraj, he can give Krishna prem. So therefore the devotees are worshipping him also. And so it is mentioned here that we have to take shelter of Giriraj. We have to worship Giriraj every day. So if one doesn't have a Govardhan Shila, then at least one should pray to Giriraj, Govardhan, and recite some prayers. So, yeah, beautiful verse, this one here. So, which is addressing the mind to take shelter of Srimati Radharani, the Gopis and Giriraj. So in this way, showing the path of Raghunaga Bhakti. Any questions? Yes? No? No? So this, No question?
I have one question about, you mentioned about Vamsi.
Vamsi the flute?
Yeah, Vamsi Murli.
Yes.
So, Prabhuji, I have heard that Vamsi is an incarnation of Lord Shiva, something.
Vamsi is an incarnation of Lord Shiva? No.
Okay.
No.
I just heard it.
No. So many people say so many things. No, but the flute is there, and so the eternal associate of the Lord, and so not an incarnation of Shiva, no. Anything else? No? Okay, just one verse I wanted to recite, but it's not coming in my mind. Very famous verse by Raghunath Das Goswami. Let me just see. What? No. No. These are not, in glorification of the spiritual master is one verse. Just it's not coming in my mind. Anyhow, what to do next time. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Kirtana Gana Ratana Pano